Welcome one and all to Office Hours, where we answer your digital technology, internet, and media-related production questions every single day. Alex Lindsay is going to be our reader for today. Alex, what do we got?
Our first question is from Craig Kodoki in Toronto, and Craig asks, Network Chuck built a local AI cluster from 5 MacStudios. He compares connecting them over 10G Ethernet or using Thunderbolt. What is the best way to network multiple Macs using Thunderbolt? And he has a link.
Yeah, he's got that YouTube link there for somebody who wants to look into it, and we're going to flip right back to Alex for the answer. Alex?
I have to admit, I haven't been able to watch this movie. I don't know how you connect the computers via Thunderbolt. So I was like, I got to watch this.
There used to be a thing called target disk mode on the Mac.
Yeah,
but
he's talking about 5 MacStudios. Chris knows more about it than I do. I was like, I don't even know how this would work.
I was going to mention the same thing about target disk mode that worked with FireWire. Yay, FireWire. Bring it back. Along with SCSI.
Parallel synchronic
and maybe Craig is holding on to, regurgitating an old memory about target disk mode, thinking that it can still do it. I don't know.
This is 5 computers. This is a
YouTube this is a little local area network, and so
I would have to.
The networking people, we need somebody from...
I would ask this. I bring this back on Friday, and also it gives us time to quietly watch it. I just haven't... It's 34 minutes, and we got it an hour ago. We got other things going on, so I didn't see it. Or I haven't been able to watch it, but I don't know how that would work. So I think we're a little stumped on that one.
Yeah, I can see why they want 10 gig Ethernet. If they're trying to cluster stuff for AI.
If he's talking about
parallel processing.
So if they're talking about using the built-in Ethernet versus FireWire, or not FireWire, but Thunderbolt 5 FireWire, using the built-in Ethernet versus FireWire,
Chris has infected your
you would be crazy to use the FireWire IP over. So David Brady posted a thing that's IP over Thunderbolt. So there is an IP over Thunderbolt, and he has and this is not new. It's in Sequoia, I guess.
I wonder if anybody's working on an AI over Apple Talk. Just for the heck of it.
Yeah, I am. I don't I guess I don't know where. I don't know how they bridge them. We'd have to do this. I have to do it to see it. I can't picture it in my head how this would work. It does say that it works, and Apple has a note on it. So we'll have to look into it a little bit further. Maybe ask again on Friday, and we'll see if we can't dig up what actually is happening here with some of our network folks.
What if we can get somebody on from OWC who understands all of that interconnection of hard drives really deeply?
Yeah, exactly.
So, next question.
Next question is from Ryan Ewell in Kigali, Rwanda. And Ryan asks, looking for a project management solution for a team of 5 that handles 2 things. 1, tasks, planning, docs, etc. for an internal team. And 2, tasks, management, comms for overseeing small external teams on multimedia projects. Any suggestions?
We got a suggestion for you all the way from Norway. Ronnie Hofsoy, dive in.
Yeah, we've been using different type of tools, everything from Asana, and of course a lot of tools from Microsoft and Google also can be made to do this stuff as well. Asana is probably kind of cool for those that do a lot of repetitive tasks with all these checklists, functionalities. These are also found in Monday and similar applications. If you would like to make something yourself that is really custom, there are basically, of course, Google and Airtables, which I know Alex loves, and we've been using in our team for more than 3 years. After we finished building everything and have everything work in Airtables, we kind of ditched everything and started using Notion instead. And Notion is more like, what could I say? It's more like a thing that you can create and you can change and you can have it fit to your exact needs at every moment, and you can just use it as a big playground, making tables, making structures, connecting automation to external application, as well as being able to communicate and making notes and everything. So it's kind of a big tool, but beware, you have to mostly create everything yourself, or as in Airtable, get pre-made templates for the functionality that you need, and then start to convert it to your own needs. So that's my 5 cents or 2 cents.
Alex.
The most popular one to use for this is Google Sheets. So that is I think that's 95%, 98% of what we see on a day-to-day basis is someone using Google Sheets. I mean, I've used Google Sheets for a long time. I will say that since moving to Airtable, it would be hard for me to fit my mind back into Google Sheets. So I started using Airtable on a project, and I'm using so many different views of the same data. And you get so used to, I've got 12 views of that data. I can sort it in different ways. I've got interfaces for people who don't need to interact with it, or even if they do have to interact with it, I've got interfaces that simplify things for them, so I'm only showing them what they need to see. And doing that in Google Sheets is very cumbersome, and doing it in Airtable is a minute. Like, I'll just create a new sheet for you that just only has this data. But if you edit that data, it edits it in my database if I let you. Or I can, build it out as a report, or I can build forms that feed into it. And it's just, it's super powerful. The downside of Airtable is it's expensive. So it is not, as you start adding people on, it's like $45 a person. Well, $25 for the base and $45 a person a month. So it's not, it is a Cadillac version of how to do this thing. So if you're going to add 30 people to it and have them edit it, Airtable is going to be a big investment. But I will say that the business model is that, man, once the hook's in, it's really hard to look at anything else. Like it's hard. Like you open it, I now open Google Sheets, which I had used for over a decade heavily, and go, oh, this is really rough. like this is really, what am I going to do with this? And so it's so if you can afford it, it's great. Otherwise, I would say Google Sheets or Notion. I mean, I haven't used Notion, but if Ronnie uses it, it's probably pretty good.
Still laughing from a comment on our first question today. Ryan Thomason in the chat said, voice over token ring. So, that's not a good solution. By the way, we are taking your questions. That's how the show gets run every day, by your questions. So if you want to put in a question, chat about the questions, vote on the questions, go to Makana in our Q&A system. officehours.global/join is the URL to get you there. We'll send you an email once you've kind of registered on there, and we don't spam you or anything like that. So it's a pretty simple process. Just hop on there, and then you'll be able to get involved in the question and answer and the rest of that, and the chat that happens during the show every day. That's officehours.global/join. Okay, let's move on to the next question.
Next question. Sorry, I'm not used to being reader, and so sometimes
I know.
Sometimes the next question, I'm just like, I'm researching other
researching
questions.
100 things.
Blah, 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 blah.
Suddenly,
Paul Wallace from Austin, Texas asks, a voice focus for Windows 11 is designed to reduce room noise and echo. It's a feature within Windows Studio Effects that uses AI to isolate your voice and minimize background noise. Of course, it can't compete with acoustic treatment, or can it?
Chris Fenwick, weigh in.
Well, obviously, I don't know anything about Windows 11, but some of the AI solutions are quite good, and it's absolutely in Microsoft's track record to take something and fold it into, the operating system and essentially Sherlock everybody. But I have a follow-up question for everybody here. For those of you who have tried to use the Adobe Podcast plugin, has anybody tried to use that? The one where you can, it's like podcast.adobe.com or something like that. Have you tried it?
Mm-hmm.
So have you paid to use the extended features of it?
No.
So even as a Creative Cloud user, you can use it at a sort of an entry level, and it's quite good. It's quite good. And if I have something that's a problem, I'll send it to it, and I'd say 70% of the time, it's an absolute thumbs up. But I've never paid for the extended features, and I was wondering if anybody had. And so I'm basically just using Paul's question to hijack it and ask my own.
Alex Lindsay wanted to weigh in on this.
Well, what I would say is that a lot of these tools can mitigate bad audio in a bad room, being too far away from the mic, having too much echo. They're not going to. They'll compete with it. So you said, of course, it can't compete. it can compete with it. I don't think it's not going to replace just having great audio. So you can definitely mitigate a lot of bad issues. We talked a little bit about this yesterday. The Apple's new laptops, we are looking at sending those out for kits without any mics, because trying to get people to use the mics has been really hard. And the laptop, and we're not, what we found is this is when we started thinking about it. We sent a mic out to somebody who couldn't get it to work, but had a Mac laptop, and just opened it up and it was working. They had the mic working, but they sounded better from the laptop than they did from an MV7, because they couldn't figure out where to put the MV7. It wasn't that it was better than an MV7. It was just that they had nowhere to put it on their desk. They got a busy desk and they've got a laptop here. And when they turned it on, we were like, go with that. And I think that, so we're now thinking, and we've never thought that up until the last year or two, or I would say the last 6 months. so that we're waiting to see what Apple releases this week, and whether they're going to release a new Air, because a new M4 Air would be our go-to. We'd probably buy a couple of those, and that would be that, and send someone a nice little case, put it back in. I don't have to, the advantage of us sending the computer to somebody is that we can give them any desk or something like that, have them open it up, take over the computer. All they have to do is talk, and so we're looking pretty seriously at that, but it's definitely not the replacement for the mic. It's just that you have to look at what can you get, which is better than, which evil do you want to embrace than the other ones, because they're not going to be in a recording studio, at home, and they're not engineers. So you have to figure out what to do with that.
As someone who's done a ton of voice work through the course of my career, it's really been interesting. I think in large part, this added cachet to the Mac laptop microphones comes from a lot of research they did into beamforming microphones. That was a big thing a couple of OSs back, a couple of hardware revs back, and they're supposedly really good. I have never tried to use my Mac for that, because I have a lot of really nice mics, but
I have to say, like when you listen to some of the Moises is a tool that my daughter uses a lot for her stuff. When you listen to it isolate a voice, you're like, well, we should be able to get rid of a little bit of noise. Because it's taking the person's voice out of a song with other things, and it just makes it sound like it's in a room by itself. I'm like, we probably could do some noise.
A couple of years ago, when they started doing this research into isolation, and I think there was somebody who really cracked the code with voice isolation algorithms, because a lot of products suddenly have it. That was before, we used to use Cedar and those big things with hardware to pull somebody's voice out of a noisy room. But now everybody's doing it, and they're doing it pretty well. You have to be a little careful, because depending on the frequencies of the noise that the machine is trying to reduce, and the frequencies in the voice you're trying to capture, or the discussion you're trying to capture, you can get what I call kind of chewing away of the voice clarity when this heavy-duty noise reduction is being employed. But if you have moderate noise, a decently treated room, and you just have certain things like maybe some HVAC moderate noise in the background, it is pretty flawless. And I'm using it right now in a regular household kind of bedroom, and I am astonished. I've been doing a lot of voice work, and nobody's complained about a file, including some of the big publishers that I've worked with. They just say it sounds great. So, Harshid, you wanted to weigh in on this?
Yes, I feel this is almost like an acquisition thing when they acquired the Nuance deal there. A lot of these tools seem like now is where they're unpackaging what they actually bought out, and little trickles, especially with Windows 11 and how they could implement what they've got now, and especially with ChatGPT and all of the AI sprinkling that and this and that. You got a nice piece of cake there.
Yeah, I think somebody figured out the algorithm, and it was not locked down by intellectual property. And so everybody jumped on it and said, yeah, we can do that too. We can do that too. And now all sorts of companies are adding in background noise removal inside products, and it's doing a really good job. It's kind of changed. I'm not sure if I would buy a voice booth again. I mean, I've got one in the next room, and I haven't been in it in over a year now, because this has been working perfectly for me. So that's a big change. Let's go to the next question.
Next question is from David Brady in New York, New York. And David asks, is Ginger Audio a viable replacement for the likes of Loopback, Farago, and Soundesk combined? It's subscription-based, so what's the panel's opinion? He has a link.
Chris Fenwick's going to start us out here. Chris?
Can't hear you, Chris.
I would say asked and answered. You said subscription based. I think no. I mean, I looked at it. They have a thing called Caster, which is a virtual mixer, and it's doing very much the same set of stuff that I'm doing. There's a soundboard. You can take your desktop audio and pull audio off of various apps and whatnot. And then there's multiple outputs. But a subscription base, you can get Soundesk, buy it, be done with it forever, and it does the same stuff. It might be great. I always find it fascinating when you have two companies doing essentially exactly the same thing. I got to turn all that stuff off. I apologize. Sorry about my camera. But doing the same thing, and it's like it seems like a waste of time. But no, Soundesk, done, paid for.
Alex Lindsay.
I love that two companies are doing the same thing. That's what gets us good products, is them competing with each other and learning from each other and having to one-upsmanship. And so I want more. I want two or three, to be doing the same thing. I think the challenge for the other teams is if you really have a great product, this is what Adobe's figured out, is that they have a product that really sets them apart. They can get people to pay for it, and people will keep paying for it. Even if they're frustrated by it, they'll keep paying for it. It's not a great relationship with your customer, but it is something that, but if you have, and as long as you still always have something that's way better than everyone else, it just puts a lot of pressure on it, which is good for us in some cases because it means that their features keep coming out. Like if Adobe Photoshop stopped doing new features for a couple of years, that'd probably be the end. People will be like, if other people caught up with it, but they don't. They keep on coming out with cool things. Here's the interface for the surround. They also have a surround here, which looks actually pretty cool. I have to admit, I'll probably download it and play with it a little bit. I know I looked at Caster years ago and had the same reaction that Chris had, which was like, well, I'm not going to pay a subscription for this. It's not important enough to my pipeline for me to pay a subscription for it. The advantage, if they can pull it off, is they have a lot more money to work with than the companies that aren't doing subscriptions. Subscriptions are really great for the developer if they can get people to pay for it. So because they have constant income, it means more engineering resources, and they can keep on doing the things they want to do. So we'll see how that goes.
There's another thing, Alex, and you brought this up with your Pixel Core apps. Sometimes the better product is the one that has the better training. So there's always that. I look at the stuff I've done with Soundesk and it's like, but it took me like a year to figure out how to do it.
Well, and I would say that there's, interface and training are the two things that people don't take into account. So they think, well, the product does the thing, and it doesn't really matter how the buttons look or how easy it is to figure out how to get started or those things. And it does matter, because when people don't know when it's hard to get to, they don't use it, and then it doesn't have value. So you have all this stuff on underneath it, and the two cheapest ways to add value to your product is your interface and your training. Because and training is probably the cheapest way to add value to a product. You don't need engineering resources. You don't need to test it again. You just need people to know that what this button does. And companies do that to varying levels of success. But those are the two cheapest ways to make sure that people are getting the full value out of your product. I mean, I come back to a microwave all the time. I don't know how to use my microwave, so all I know how to do is do buttons. I go time, and I do. Sometimes I do power, but mostly just time. That's what almost everybody does. You know why? Is because there is a manual somewhere that we lost like 2 minutes after we bought it, that told us that like how to cook chicken in it and how to do all. They spend millions of dollars on those features of all this what they call fuzzy logic, and they do all this other stuff, and they've got all these things on how to make popcorn, and all we do is time, start. Because and that is a perfect example of bad interface, or bad training. Because and so because of that, microwaves to me are all equal. The only thing that matters about a microwave is how big it is and whether it'll fit into the hole in my wall. I don't care about any other feature. But this is a great example of how you differentiate yourself is having an interface that makes it easy to use it, and having training. If there was a phone app that showed me how to use my microwave and cook cool things with it, I'd probably get attached to that microwave, and then I'd be like, I have to have a different size hole because in my wall, because this is the microwave I want, because I could make great meals with it. But that's not what happens, and so they're completely commoditized because they don't have any way to differentiate themselves. And it's not about the product; it's about the interface and the training.
I concur greatly, but it was transformative in my life when I figured out what the reheat button on our microwave did. Because, boy, what a difference. And it's exactly what you're saying. Somebody programmed in a thing that perfectly reheats a plate of leftovers from Thanksgiving, and you're going, oh, that's why I should maybe think about that button. But you're right. There are a lot of buttons I have no clue what they do. Nigel, you want to get in on this?
While we're on a microwave rant, I wanted to point out that the other part of that is the UI, is the user interface, and how much sense it makes. We have a Bosch microwave and a Bosch oven. They have exactly the same look, except the start button is in two different places on them. So they designed them to look exactly the same and operate differently. And I think the same is true of software. That, the old adage that if the software is easy to learn, it's hard to use, and if it's hard to learn, it's easy to use.
I mean, we got a June oven, which has great training and a great integration with your phone and lots of things that figure things out for you and just does the thing. And we use it 10 times more than our microwave.
Yeah, but everybody kind of figures out the thing that they do. I mean, if all you do every day is use your microwave to reheat your coffee, it makes sense to figure out exactly the right recipe for reheating your coffee because you're going to do that every day. The fact that you want, your vegetables not to get soggy in the microwave, and there may be some process to do that, but I'll never find it because I don't cook vegetables in the microwave. So, yeah, it's a fascinating
that is gross,
topic.
By the way. Cooking vegetables in the microwave.
No,
not okay.
That's not good. Yeah. Next question.
Next question is from David Arsenault in Bonaventure, Quebec. David asks, I have a hockey tournament that will be held in two different arenas. Essentially, both places would have at least one PTZ Canon CRN 300 and an ATEM. I'm looking for a solution to control both of them from one arena, graphics and angles. TriCaster now.
Ronnie Hossoy has some thoughts for you. Ronnie?
Yeah, it seems like you are just going to control them, like in remote control, and that the equipment in the arena is going to be sufficient to do their own streaming or whatever, maybe just recording. And there are probably loads of ways of doing this. The one I'm going to talk about is the one I've tried and tested and found to be stable and good. And that is actually to use BitFocus Companion on both sides. You use the satellite in the site where you are controlling, and you use the main application at the other side. With that configuration, you can actually just use a small thing like a Stream Deck to control all the presets and motion. You can control the ATEM directly. And remember, you need to do it this way because the ATEM's protocol and a lot of other cameras protocol are very chatty. So it's difficult to do that through a VPN otherwise. If you're using the companion way to do it, the companion is handling all that communication internally on that network in the remote site and in your local site separately, and just have short bursts of data going through the VPN channel that you probably would set up. Another way to do this is to actually use something like Mimo Live, a software for Apple Macintosh computers like the M1s and M2s and so on. And what you can do with that is also to expose a web-based interface on both venues. Use that web interface to remote control all the stuff that you need to do, including the ATEM, which also the Mimo Live with the studio license will cover, and make it possible for you to remote control everything on both the camera and the ATEM. So it depends on what we are trying to do. If you are going to watch everything, which I guess you would like to, you need to have a multi-view or just a separate view also to the arena where you're controlling everything from. I'm not going to dive into that, but you need some way to preview the multi-view as well. So there are several ways of doing that as well.
Alex Lindsay.
Yeah, I do hear what Ronnie's saying about the VPN, but I will say that we have done VPNs for this process with more than 2 locations, up to 4 locations, where we're VPN'd in. Now we're using, in those cases, we were typically using Meraki's. They just tie into a cloud. You just turn them on and they work. And so they're more expensive, but there's a lot less setup. so you just, we can see them even when they don't have any IPs, so we can, to get them configured. So I think that's what we've done in the past. And then there's a wide variety of everything from screen sharing to Zoom to other things that we use to see what's going on the other side. But there's so many good screen sharing tools right now that you can get high enough frame rate that you shouldn't have a problem, depending on how much bandwidth you have at the venues. But if you have a lot of bandwidth between the venues, we've definitely done that very successfully. When you only have one PDZ camera, there's not that much you're cutting to. While you do have a hockey tournament, it doesn't sound like a little bit of latency is going to make a difference if you only have a couple cameras. Again, the primary thing that we've used with these are ATEMs, to make this work. The thing you don't want is you don't want a piece of software to not work somewhere else.
Sorry, I jumped the gun a little bit. Apologies.
Yeah.
Let's go to our next question.
Next question is from Peter Rosado in Las Vegas, Nevada. And Peter asks, panel opinion, the new DJI Osmo Mobile 7P phone gimbal versus the DJI Osmo Pocket 3.
It's Battle of the Gimbals, and we've got a lot of participants here. Nigel, you're starting us off.
We have to. Yeah. Where's the echo where it goes?
Yeah, where's the? We need a flying graphic coming. Yeah. Nigel, dive in.
So, I mean, if you're a 3 owner, then there's quite a jump to the 7. I'm a 6 owner, so I don't think that there's a huge difference. But there are a couple of notable features. I think the multifunction module is probably the biggest element change here, which attaches to the phone holder that you put on your Osmo, and it starts to use some of the phone's capabilities to help with tracking. So you're less reliant on DJI's app, which I find a little inflexible at times. I think you're still going to have the DJI app. It will allow you to attach your Mini 2s straight to it. But with all the Osmos, my experience has been you need to spend time with your Osmo, that you need to get used to it, you need to learn to love it and live with it for a while. And all the new features are not great if you aren't used to using it and don't understand its capabilities. The one other, I think, big change, there's some battery changes between the 3 and the 7. The range of motion is much wider on the 7. But again, it's learning to use your technology, but that multifunction module may be the biggest change.
Ronnie?
Yeah, as we saw in the video, the Osmo 7 for phones are definitely something that I would like to purchase. I have the older one. The Pocket is really cool. It's limited, of course, to the camera that you have in the Pocket. And I also have, I think I had the first and second iteration of those cameras as well. But eventually it's all about the flexibility and the quality changes that changes with the phones. I tend to change my phones more often than I tend to change my cameras or Osmo Pockets. So just having this kind of gimbal makes it easier to do it with my camera. And remember, you can have a lot of different apps on your phone. You can stream, you can have Zoom, and still use the gimbal, regardless of what you actually do with it. And there are several apps that now start to utilize the functionality that you have on the gimbal handle itself. So like Zoom and change modes, etc. And one of the cool things with the new thing is the new magnet, which is you can put that magnet onto the older versions of the gimbals as well, and you don't have to have the grip mount. So you can just use the MagSafe or MagCharge functionality of the iPhones to have that new thing, kind of new thing, and it's just like $20, $19. So I would get that one as well.
Nice upgrade. Alex Lindsay.
Yeah, I would stick with the phone. I mean, I think that the Osmo is really cool. I got the first one and the second one, and I've used them twice. You know, like I thought that I would use them. I got excited about it, and I used the Osmo in Cambodia, the first one, and thought it would be great. The problem is that it's not as good as the phone. Like the video quality coming out of both of any of the Osmos that and I haven't tested the Pocket 3. But the Pocket 1 and 2 have not been close to the quality of my phone. The reason I would use them is because I don't want to stick my phone, you know, out the window of a car or something. I mean, when I was using, well, I say that, but I was like, I was shooting. I got I hired a motorcycle to drive, you know, to get from one part of Siem Reap to another in Cambodia. And that's where I pulled out my Osmo, because I'm not going to have my phone like hanging out of a motorcycle while going down the road. But I could do that with an Osmo, and if I lost it, I was like, oh well, you know. And so and I used it a little bit out of the top of a sunroof, which I wouldn't have used my phone with, because it turns in your phone, by the way, in case you're wondering, you learn very quickly if you use a sunroof and you try to get driving shots, your phone turns into a sail really fast, you know, and so it doesn't work nearly as well as you think it would. You're like, oh, I'll get some footage, and as soon as they get to about 15 miles an hour, you're like, whoa, this isn't going to work. So those are the considerations I'd have. The other one that I would look at is I did order, I haven't gotten it yet, is the new Flow 2. I have the 7 as well, so I'm going to kind of try to compare the two and decide which ones I like.
Chris Fenwick.
Have you seen that footage of somebody, like they're on a train, like a passenger train, and they're holding it out the door, and somebody jumps out of the bushes and snags their phone?
Yeah.
The price is an issue too. I mean, the gimbal thing, the mobile, I mean, it's almost an impulse buy at like $150 or something.
Right.
I'm sorry about my camera again. Here, I'll sit here. I'll sit over here.
It's going to put you on the left's third, regardless of where you go.
Cut off of
too
me.
much camera intelligence.
Cut off of me. Leave my camera. I will go in shame. Bye. I thought I fixed
Next. This. We'll just relieve Chris by going to the next question.
Next question is from Marley Esusha Miera from Wabaloo. And the question is, vMix calls isn't supported by Multicorder. We tried recording 5 ISOs and switched feed, but got dropped frames in multiple files that we have to sew together in Premiere. Livemind NDI recorder does the same. Any options or workarounds to record 5 calls?
Well, hopefully someone can help you. And Alex, you raised your hand first.
We use in the show Zoom ISO. Zoom ISO, now you can use Zoom, and if you're on a Mac, you could do something like Mimo Live. You can just have Mimo Live join the call and record all 5 all 5 people. If you have enough processor speed and drive speed, if you had a base M4 Mac Mini, you'd probably be able to just jump in and grab all of them if you have enough bandwidth to pull it down. So make sure you have enough bandwidth. Remember, if you're at 1080p, you're multiplying each one by about 6.25. You could be 7, multiply it by 7 to be safe, and then double that. So if you're going to record 5 ISOs, I would say that you would need a bare minimum of 50 megs a second. If not, 70 is what I would be looking for down to be able to pull those ISOs. If you're not doing that, you might have other issues there. So you want a lot of headroom on that record. The most reliable way that we do this when we're doing it for actual productions is we're sending it out of a Duo or a quad card. Those are going out as SDI. We're feeding them into hardware recorders. We've seen lots of people use software to record this. None of them are as reliable as sending SDI out of a computer into a recorder. We've tried them all. We've seen other people try them. We fixed things for people after they tried to do it with software. So I would just say that you're always going to be at a risk when you're doing software records. But I would say that we have done records I've done records where I recorded the program as well as all the ISOs from Mimo Live very successfully to make that actually work. But if someone said, this is something that matters, I got to record these, and we're going to use them into somewhere in the future, or it's a big deal. In all cases, for those, we've used hardware hyperdecks with, and I'm talking about full-size hyperdecks with SDI out, and that's always worked.
Ronnie Hofsoy.
Yeah, asking that question and coming in after Alex is like everything he said, and just confirm Minimal Live will work, Zoom ISO will work. Also, there are other tools as well that can just connect into the meeting, and using hardware like deck links is always the preferred solution for our recordings if we have the client with budgets. If not, we use Minimal Live all the time.
You may wonder where all the great questions that come into office hours come from. Well, I mentioned earlier Mukana. That's one of the places you can put them in. But if you want to do something simpler and quicker and easier, you can also use the QR code, or just type in. This is the easiest way to do it. Type in askofficehours.global in your web browser, any web browser, and that will put you into kind of the quick queue. Askofficehours.global. You can put your questions in there. They go into the back end folks. They just go through them to make sure everything's cool and put them in the show. They can get in really quickly that way sometimes, or it may be that we're full of questions that day and they'll get tossed back to the next day. But they will be persistent in the system a little bit. So askofficehours.global is the other way to get your questions into our system. Next question.
Next question from Lois Richter in Davis, California. And Lois asks, today is National Battery Day. Do you use batteries for much? What kinds of batteries would you recommend?
I was not aware that there is a National Battery Day.
There's
I should go visit
everything day. There's a
go visit all my dead batteries.
Day and National so
go see how many little stickers I have on from 5 years ago going, this battery should only last 3 years. Please get rid of it and recycle it at that point. Anyway, Nigel's going to help us out. Nigel, dive in.
I wondered how much they charged for National Battery Day. But that aside, I think I have different rules for different occasions. Obviously, there are certain devices that come with their own batteries, and I tend to try and use those that with supplied by the manufacturer, mostly rechargeable. There are some that are purely disposable to me, which are those that go in things like the smoke detectors. And we just, to be honest with you, buy the cheapest thing we can get from Costco. And then there are batteries in a production environment where I tend to use the battery and then throw it away way before it's probably needed to be, or put it in a bucket to use somewhere else. And then finally, there's batteries where I'm very sensitive to the technology. And mostly I find if you go to the manufacturer's website, particularly where they talk about the length of time the device will work on a battery, they will specify what batteries it's been tested on. And this is particularly in home automation, things like that. You'll find they've actually named the battery they've used. And then I try and use the battery that they've specified. Probably don't need to, but if that's what they've tested, that's what I'm going to use.
Alex Lindsay, your thoughts?
It depends. So many batteries, so many options. So I'm for a lot of things. I have a variety of anchor batteries that are like the larger batteries that I'm going to use that are in my backpack. I think I have. I was trying to find one. This is my new favorite. Is this one? This anchor battery here. It doesn't have a lot of outputs, but it's got like a little thing at the bottom that you can actually plug right into. You set it down and charge it, which is kind of nice. But you can also charge it with the USB-C. You push a little button and it tells you that this one right now is 99% full. It tells you when you plug things in, it tells you, oh, these are charging. This is what the draw is, and all this other stuff. So I like that one. For little things like double A's, the difference is does it matter? Or does it not matter? That's and so for if it matters, I'm using pretty high quality batteries that, these are production batteries. I can't think of the name of them off the top of my head. I'm sure Mickey will post something in the thing. But because they're the ones that Mickey recommended a long time ago are the ones that I'm using. But for ones that don't matter, when I'm just doing tests and I know that I can just swap them out. This is a little thing from, I guess, Bat Zone. I don't, But the key is that USB-C in, and it is it's got a bunch of AA batteries in here. And so I can just drop these AA batteries in. You can see I'm using some of them right now. Close it, look at the top, and you'll see that they're charging, and they'll stop when they're charged. And it's just a nice little box, and I can just throw rechargeables in. I don't like the other rechargeables. I don't like having to plug in. This is just USB-C. I don't have to know anything about it. I just I kind of will lean towards USB-C for a lot of things, just so I don't have to think about what I'm carrying with me. So if I know that it's not a big deal if I run out of battery, then I'm using those rechargeables. If it does matter, I'm using high performance production batteries, and I don't use a lot of stuff in between.
Chris Fenwick.
Yeah, Alex, you held up that Anker battery. I have one very similar. It's got the same screen, I think. It shows you the thing, but it also does this. Boop-a-doo. Do you have that?
There you go. Nope. Mine doesn't do that.
Yeah, I think mine's a little shorter, but it doesn't have that craziness on the bottom. And it's got 2 USB-Cs on the side. Keenan actually talked me into this one as a, just keep it in your bag kind of thing. And when I was in Colorado, it was very handy.
Yeah, they're great.
I have a couple like that. I have the other version. This doesn't have the end thing on the big Anker battery, but this one I want to recharge my laptop. This has enough juice to power the Airs and things like that. This is the other one from Anker that has that, and I found this one to be my favorite in terms of things like I'm going to go out shooting for a long day because it's small enough to fit in a little belt pack, and I can connect it to my phone or something like that through a curly cord and have a really get out of my way. I just want to make sure that my phone does not die ever, no matter how much shooting I'm doing with it or something. Those two have been really useful. I will also say that in AA's and AAA's, I just tried to standard. I tried to get rid of a lot of things, and I tried to standardize on Sony NP-style batteries for all the medium-sized things. Sanyo Eneloops, which have always been a pretty good brand for rechargeables. They sell them at Costco and places like that. Big ecosystem out there for chargers and stuff like that. And I still haven't been able to get down to 1 or 2 kinds of batteries. I still have 14 different kinds of rechargeable batteries, and that drives me nuts because everybody keeps using these proprietary ones. Alex, you wanted to come back in?
Yeah, the one thing I was going to say is that the L series, the Sony batteries that we have, I have a couple old ones here. I can easily grab this one because it's not in my bag because I don't use them very often anymore. These are these L mounts that a lot of our sound devices stuff have and other things have. Small Rig makes a version of these that has a display and a USB-C. And I can tell you, life changing. The reason this one's just hanging around is I'm trying to figure out how to throw it away. So, like it's batteries. So I'm trying to figure out how to responsibly get rid of it. But once I started getting batteries, this series of batteries with USB-Cs on the side, where I don't have to think about a big charger or how to, whatever, I was done. They're great.
I don't know if they're still out there, but the retail Operation Batteries Plus used to do battery recycling of almost all kinds, and they're often in malls and things.
There's a Batteries Plus. I can take it. I just haven't gotten. I know where it is. It's not in a convenient place for me to drive. So we'll see. Maybe I'll send them. an unmarked package with just a bunch of batteries. Here, kid, take the batteries.
Make sure there's no fingerprints on it. They also do battery. Thank you, Southern California. They do a lot of battery recycling things around here.
We pay for it, by the way.
Big trash things, and
they don't do it out of the kindness of their heart. We, as Californians, we pay for recycling when we buy any product that they're going to recycle because they get paid. It's like a deposit for your bottle. You pay for it on the way in, and they get paid to hand it back.
I'm just happy when my old hard drives, my old TVs have to be turned in. I've got a place to go and just say, take them away, make them go away, crush them, please, and they will. Next question.
Next question is from Zach Stallsmith in Chautauqua, New York, and Zach asks, I'm looking at backlighting for my home office, as seen with many panelists, and would like something like a Phillips Hue or Govee. What is the recommendation?
Harshid, start us off.
What are a couple things to look at with the Phillips Hue lineup? You'll have a box or a thing that you hook up to the Ethernet, so the connectivity goes through that little box. Whereas Bluetooth is available on both product brands, but for the cost at Philips Hue, I would say you have a lot of choices in your professional lighting as well. Maybe even Elgato could be a good choice for like a key light since you want to get some color in your backlight or your background rather. So I would really look at professional lighting for the cost that you're going to spend for Philips. But if you just want to go give it a whirl, then Philips is pretty decent. Govee, inexpensive. I just don't know with the Cree levels and all of that and how it shows up in the cameras and stuff. So it's not the cleanest, but it may work for you.
Alex Lindsay.
Yeah, so the two that I use for this are probably a little bit more expensive than the Govees and the Hues, but I like them a lot. So this is the Pavo tube by Nanlite. So this is a 6C, and I've got a couple of those. And then we also use the 7C. I don't know why it's 7C and 6C from two different companies, but Aperture makes this one. What's cool about this one is that it has a standard mounting bulb. So this will just screw right into your, if you have a regular hotel room, it'll screw right into it. And if you want to see these in use, here's what it looks like for me in a hotel. So here are the 7Cs that are, I literally took the lights out of I took the lights out of the stuff that came with the hotel room, threw them in some box or something, and then you can see that I have some 6Cs down below. So these are the 7Cs, the apertures. These are the 6Cs down here, just doing a little uplighting here, and then these are some 6Cs that I'm using for key and fill here. You can see that I use a very high tech. This is before I had the. You can see I'm using the ice chest, the little ice thing that comes with your hotel room. This is before I had the good stand for my laptop. So, but this gives you a sense of how I kind of can approach lighting, and it's all in a little case, and you can pop it out, and it definitely looks much nicer. It's for the show. I don't do it for calls. Like, just so you know, I know that I sound like I'm over the top. I don't do it for like business calls.
No,
I don't turn my hotel
Alex,
room like that.
You don't sound like you're over the top. You're over the top. This guy knows how to party on the road. I'm just saying, rave in Alex's room tonight.
Professional gear manufacturers, there's a thing there. It's the technical ice bucket. It's got to be exactly the right size to get the camera up to this.
The key was to get to a point where I could where I wasn't two 1650s every time I went to a hotel. You know, I'm down to just one 1510 in my backpack.
Nigel, you wanted to get in on this?
Yeah, I just wanted to add two quick thoughts. One is there's a question of how easy do you want it to be to control, and whether it wants to integrate into your home lighting system or have a separate system. I use a couple of the Elgato fills, key lights with a gel on top, and I just drive them from my Stream Deck. If you're looking for something like Phillips Hue or those, the other thing to look at is the Sync, which is CYNC, which is Savant's sort of consumer-based products. And they've done some really interesting things recently. And you'll find there's a lot more options in not only the lights, but the design of the lights and the other things. But note the difference between buying one of those things that Alex showed where you can change the colors, where you can also get lights where you just different color whites, so you can follow the sun by making them, different temperatures. So there are lots of different options here, but the Sync is an interesting range to look at.
For those of you who are interested in supporting the show, there are a couple of ways you can do that. First of all, you can like and subscribe to our YouTube channel. I know every time you're on YouTube, there are all these people saying, please like and subscribe, but it does make a difference. So if that doesn't cost anything. You just like and subscribe on our YouTube channel. You can volunteer at officehours.global/volunteer, become part of the team kind of in the background that makes all this happen. You will learn a lot, meet some great people. Or if you want to make a straight donation, you could do that too at officehours.global/donate. So those are all ways you can help the show, should you prefer to. Next question.
Sorry, I always forget that I'm the reader. So the next question is from Tony Mobley in Noonan, Georgia. And Tony asks, I am having to provide tech support for House of Worship members, mostly Windows. Can I do that on my Mac?
Ronnie Hofsway, do you think there's a cross-platform way to help?
Yes, they are. It depends on if you're doing this as a kind of thing that you do all the time, or if it's more like ad hoc. There are tools like Splashtop, and you have Remote PC, AnyDesk, etc. But looking away from those specialized tools that are doing this really, really good, there are two ways that I've been doing it lately. And this is for ad hoc support. One is the Chrome remote utility, where you can remote control. I'm not sure if that is safe enough, but the other one that is even more used, since most of our people that are needing this support from our team is using something called Zoom. And if they are on Zoom, you can just require or request a remote control session, and the other end has to just approve it in their Zoom app, and then you have probably a lot of control to help them do this. Of course, that is problematic if they can't install or there is no disk space left, etc., and they have to have some basic thing done before, but that's usually done through the phone or just easily. So trying to do this with Zoom is kind of easy, and it's a well-known application for most of the people we do support for. So,
Alex Lindsay.
Yeah, the AnyDesk is where we've kind of for basic connections, doesn't have to be high performance, it's just easy to use. We found that AnyDesk is our favorite to just kind of throw that in, send someone something they can open it up with. But if you're talking about supporting Windows, you can do it exactly the way I do it, which is, Mom, I don't know anything about Windows. I can't help you. You'll need to pay someone. like you should buy a Mac. I'll pay for it. so like that's how I support my mom doing with her Windows machine that she will not give up.
Hey, a couple of other things I wanted to mention. Don't forget that we do have some evening shows now. If you find that the time range for our show every day doesn't quite work for you, extra hours on Mondays for those of you. Conversations with Tony Mobley comes up, and The Rundown, which is kind of our newest show on Thursday evenings from David Paskin and others. So those are all evening shows that might fit in your schedule better. If so, please check them out. Next question.
Next question is from Marley Jusha Miera in Wabaloo. And Marley asks, massive storms in the Gulf and other places. How do you get alerts and protect your production business at home from damages from rain, snow, and high winds? How about the civil unrest like in Trinidad and Tobago?
Big question. Alex Lindsay, what are your thoughts?
I ping Keenan Campbell and say, "Do you got a dashboard? Like, what's going on here?" Yeah. So that's my main way of figuring out if I see something happening in the world. I figure, well, Keenan's probably building. He sent me a dashboard when the fires were in LA, and so Keenan is usually who I ping to ask about what that looks like. Jack Cannon said Trinidad and Tobago have been in a state of emergency since the end of last year.
Yeah, I have to double down on Keenan's product. It's a fabulous way. During the wildfires in California, I was keeping track of it because we were under wildfire alerts here in more Southern California as well. That got me into a couple of other services. So whichever one you get into, keep your eyes open. There's more activity in the space of public notification now than I've seen in a long time. I wish I remembered all of the things. I probably could look on my phone, First Watch or something like that. There's a couple of services that do really well in terms of a local orientation. You sign up using your zip code, and they will tell you literally when there's public service, public safety warnings for your area. So I would highly suggest you take a look at some of those global warning kinds of things. Alex, you had some more thoughts?
Yeah, and generally when it comes to like some certain country, I've worked in a lot of countries where the State Department says it's unsafe. And then I've worked in ones that are very safe, and I found them to be sometimes not related to what the State Department says or what people lay out. You need to know somebody on the ground, and then you ping them and ask, like, how's this actually working? I mean, I've been in those countries when news was happening, and it didn't look anything like what the news was. So you should not assume that you have any idea of what the truth is in these countries when you're watching the news. As someone who's been on the ground, they generally are trying to stir up something that's good to keep you watching, but it rarely is that well connected to the truth. So just know that what you're seeing about other countries and whether they're safe or not safe is not really connected to reality. As someone who's been in those countries while the news was happening, and sometimes was making that news that was happening.
I just looked up on my iPad. The app I used during the fires recently was Watch Duty. So it's one of those kind of local, it's a not-for-profit organization, and they were really good about telling you specifically what areas were, and you could zoom in on those areas and see almost down to the neighborhood level who was being evacuated, who was getting. So that's one of those things to dive into.
Local contacts. You need local. Like, I don't go into countries that I don't have solid local people that I trust. That is what you need.
Next question.
Next question is from Funsuk Dorji in India, and Funsuk asks, "Hi panelists, greetings. Where can I monitor the growth of subscriber base of a YouTube channel?"
Harshid's going to help us out a little bit. Harshid?
Yes, hello, DJI. I would check YouTube Studio, and you would find at least statistics or people that have subscribed to your channel, so you'll find more statistical information with YouTube Studio app.
Okay, hopefully
I'm sorry, I forgot to raise my hand.
Go ahead, Alex.
If you want to look at anybody's channel, you can go to View Stats. So View Stats here, you just put the channel in. It'll give you all the information, not all the information, but much of the information you'd see on YouTube Studio. But you see it about, anyway, this is Office Hours Global. This is, but I could go, you can say, I want to search for, I don't know, we'll see. This is Mr. Beast. This one will be. So now you can see all the different ones that Mr. Beast has. Here is the, sorry?
I said he gets a few views.
He gets a few views, 2.4 billion, 17 million on this one. He's got 17 million subscribers in the last 28 days. So in the last year, he's only gotten 122 million. He's not performing as well as I thought he could. But you get a sense of it. But you can look at anybody's channel there to see what's happening. If Harshid is correct, if you want to look at your own, there's great data that's in Studio and especially the Advanced tab has tons of ways to relate data to the other data. But if you're looking for somebody else's page, you just want to see what they're doing or how well they've done, that's a great channel. View Stats is the one that people that I know go to look at other people's channels.
Next question.
Next question is from Zach Stallsmith in Chautauqua, New York. And Zach asks, could it be possible that a vMix preset is spiking the CPU due to the large number of inputs, even if Task Manager is showing a low vMix CPU usage?
This is the wrong question for me, and no one else raised their hand on it. Alex, do you want to dive in and help a little bit?
I would bring that up. We've got a bunch of vMix users that are here on Fridays, and I would. I'd ask that question again, and they're also more PC and vMix oriented. So bring that question up again on Friday, and let's see what we get.
Fair enough. Let's get to another question.
Next question is from Tony Mobley in Noonan, Georgia, and Tony asks, I am considering looking at getting an ATEM Extreme. If I do, should I give my ATEM Mini Pro away or use it in the setup?
Alex, what do you think?
I have a tendency not to give the stuff away because I end up using it for something else. So, as a sub switch, as another little whatever convenience way to cut something else that's I might have 4 computers and I only want to use one input on my Extreme because I'm using it for other things. Having that sub switch is something that I'd probably keep. I probably wouldn't give it away. And I don't know if I'd use it immediately on the setup, but I'd have this little switcher that I could use. You might go out on the road, like you might go to your house of worship or other things because you do those things, and now you have a little switcher that you can use for that, and it's not you're not tearing apart your home system to do it. So I probably would keep it.
Let's go to our next and last question.
Next question is from Jeff Veely in Henderson, Texas. And Jeff asks, my RodeCaster Duo often doesn't show up in my MacStudio when connected via USB-C. No hubs or docks used. Any idea of what would cause this?
Boy, there's not. I think that's a class-compliant device, so that's a little bit of a mystery. Alex, do you have some thoughts?
My question is whether you're plugging it into the front or the back of your MacStudio. And the reason for that is that I have had repeated problems with the MacStudio deciding that certain devices are not valid from the front USB-C connections and then not seeing them, like drives. This was fixed it depends on what operating system you're using. I'm not using Sequoia on this Mac, but the last version when I upgraded, those ports became available to my hard drives again. But for about 6 months, I couldn't get a hard drive to show up if I plugged it into the front USB-C ports, but they did plug into the Thunderbolts on the back. So let us know if you still have trouble with it, whether you're plugging into the front or whether you're plugging into the back. But if you're plugging into the back and it shows up and you're plugging into the front, and it's not showing up, it's your Mac. It's not the RodeCaster.
Hopefully all of you found this a little bit interesting, informative, maybe even fun. We hope so. Yeah, we do this every day, and we do this because we think that it's important to get all the information out here. And our thanks go out to everybody who makes this possible. Those of you who we consider our producers, everybody who puts a question into the queue, you really do program the show. And everybody who votes on those questions, you help determine how quickly we get to a question and how much time we spend on it by your votes. So you're telling us what you want to learn about every single day, to the panelists who show up here every single day and help everybody by freely sharing their knowledge and experience over the course of years, in most cases, of professional experience in these areas. Thank you to all of our panelists and to the amazing back-end crew, the folks behind the scenes spread out all over the world who are pushing buttons or making lists and helping us keep things organized at the show. It really is a huge global village, and we appreciate each and every one of you who touch the office hours operation one way or another. A talk traversal for today, if you were to try to go out and get all this information, you'll have to visit people and travel 38,000 miles to do that. That's 61,000 kilometers, 298 million bananas for scale. That's our show for today. We'll see you again tomorrow.
A really quick hour.
Yeah, that was fun.
Yeah.
I enjoyed that immensely. Chris, good to see you again.
Did you guys see that report last week where the woman came out and said, yeah, there was probably 2 shooters?
Is she going back to the Kennedy thing or something?
Yeah. They're going to release.
Wow.
And we were like, yeah.
Can't let that one go.
Well, no. I mean,
like it's so known that it's a lie that none of us are even surprised anymore. It doesn't even make the news. Like you're just kind of like, we knew that.
Think it would, yeah. But I mean, my point being is, you just have to remind people. For 60 years. They sat there and said, nope, just one lone gunman.
I love that one of my favorite scenes of any movie is from Shooter, with Mark Wahlberg.